there is then a stepwise process of human clinical testing that normally starts by testing the drugs in what are called phase 1 trials in volunteers, usually healthy volunteers. Phase 1 trials involve providing a single dose or a small number of doses of the drug to evaluate the drug's pharmacokinetics and pharmacodynamics. Basically, how much of the drug gets into the bloodstream, how high the bloodstream levels get, how the drug is excreted through the kidney or through the liver. Usually that is done in a small number, maybe a couple dozen healthy volunteers. If the drug shows positive signals in phase 1 of relating to its pharmacokinetics and pharmacodynamics, then it might be moved into phase 2 testing, which is the first time a drug really is administered to patients with the disease that the drug is intended to treat. Phase 2 trials may involve a few dozen patients, maybe even up to 100 patients, and usually are intended to try to identify the maximum tolerated dose of the drug in those patients, and to identify what a proper dose would be for use. And you might get some information about the safety of the drug, and you might for the first time get some signal of how effective the drug actually is. If the drug then has a positive outcome from the phase 2 trial, it might then be subject to a phase 3 trial, which is the first time the drug is now subject to a prospective trial that has a lot of the features of a very high quality clinical trial in terms of randomization, blinding potentially of the investigators that are administering the drug, and the patients who are receiving the drug. There are usually multiple arms of the drug, so there's a comparator that the drug might be tested against, whether it be a placebo or an active comparator. A phase 3 trial at least is supposed to test the drug on a clinical outcome that is meaningful to patients, such as how a patient feels, functions, or survives. Phase 3 trials are usually the biggest trials that we have, and they may involve hundreds or sometimes even thousands of patients, and they can take months and sometimes even years to complete. And then if there is a positive response in the phase 3 trial, then that drug may be the information may be submitted to the FDA, and that will lead to the approval of the drug. The existence of the FDA helps ensure that that our drug supply is safe, and that there aren't entrepreneurs out there that might try to mislead people by selling them drugs that don't work or drugs that are unsafe. So it serves a function to protect patients from potentially dangerous or untested products. So I think that's a really important function of why we have an FDA. Another reason we have an FDA and the role that the FDA plays is that the FDA is there to evaluate the data that is collected and to ensure that the data is collected in the first place.